Well, hello my friends, it's Shawn Petite and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Look at this beauty we're creating today. Here are the supplies that we'll be using. So I'm starting today's project on a 12 by 12 MDF board, and I've done a quick messy gesso to it just to prepare the surface. Now I'm using one of my new stencils in the shop, the dictionary pages, and I love it. And I'll go over a little bit more of that at the end of the video, but I'm just using a brush because I want it to be super messy and some raw umber. And I've just stenciled that all over the place. And then as I was cleaning up my stencil, I saw this wonderful image on my towel that you can see there so I took my wet rag and I just kind of rubbed it through the messy stencil and added a little bit more yummy goodness. So I'm using some Lucas paints in gray and caramel. And I'm going to just start pushing that stenciling back because I want it there, but I want it to be soft and subtle and to peek through and be transparent and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just taking my paint without any water. I'll add maybe a touch of water here and there, but I'm just really messily painting that paint on to just kind of push that first layer back. There's a bunch of new stencils in the shop, so I hope you get to check them out, and I kind of talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video, along with the meaning of this piece at the end of the video. But I also have a couple of videos that I'll link to as well in the YouTube description box that I did this week, just kind of showing the new stencils and a couple of projects that I did. So now that I've got my paint down, I wanted this paper coming down from the top to look like old peeled like drywall where the cement had peeled off, and that was my thinking behind this. It didn't look as good. It still was wonderful because it showed through, but I ended up adding to it as we progressed through the project. So this is the one of the other new stencils, the large arch, and oh my gosh, I'm in love, love, love. So I'm just kind of getting an idea where my doorway or passageway is so that I don't stencil into that area, my boulders and my cobblestone and all that kind of stuff. This is the boulder stencil, also new. I created these stencils to go together. I just positively love them. Wait till you see the cobblestone. So I'm using the big boulder because typically when you look at a wall, there's lots of inconsistencies as far as size, especially old world walls. And so I'm going back and forth between the larger boulder and the smaller cobblestone pattern to create my wall, and it's just perfect. I'm using gesso with my brush. And I'm using my brush because it's fast and I can get in there and kind of scrub it and push that gesso up against the sides. Typically I would do it with my finger, but since I'm doing such a large area, I did my brush, and I didn't need it to be really perfect because this is an old wall. Some of the edges are going to be blurred, some of them are going to be faded, all that kind of stuff. So, and I'm just using regular gesso. And I keep going back to my outline here so that I know where to stencil. So now I'm coming back in with the cobblestone, and there are two different patterns of cobblestone. One is more of a perspective, like for the ground, and one is more flat for like a wall. And I'm using the flat one for the smaller areas to just give some variety and really make it feel old and yummy and grungy and good. All of the supplies will be listed on the blog, and the link to the blog will be down below in the YouTube description box. So now that I've got all of the walls stenciled in, this is the other part of that cobblestone stencil, and I'm using a combination of English red and some raw umber. I mixed them together because I didn't want it to be red. I wanted it to be faded and grungy again. And then I'll go over it with some more raw umber because, of course, that's just my favorite. And then I did pull it back up with my rag because, again, I want that kind of washed out, worn feel, and it worked perfectly. So here's where I kind of add to the papers just, kind of got covered up. They're still there and they still show through, which is wonderful. But I want a little bit more of that grunge and kind of peeling wall, peeling paint kind of effect. So I'm just using, again, regular gesso, my palette knife, and just giving some quick swipes across there to really kind of accentuate that kind of grungy wall feel. So now I've switched to super heavy gesso because I want this depth, the depth of this, of the arch to really stand out and to really have some texture. And so this is super heavy gesso, and I'm just getting that through the stencil. And you could use modeling paste. I like gesso because it dries really fast and really white. Look at that gorgeousness, makes me so happy. So my cobblestones were a little bit uneven, which I wanted, but I wanted to kind of finish that little top line off with just a touch of paint in the same color. Now I'm just going to do I used Deco Art Media's glazing medium, and I used glazing medium because it gives it a more consistent feel, gets in all the grooves, versus say a wash. And I'm just going to do that all over the piece just to really grungy it up. And I'm using some water right now to kind of pull that back a bit, and then I'll come back with some alcohol. But I'm just going to grungy the whole thing up. Of course, it's got to have the grunge. So now that that's dry, I've got alcohol on my rag now, and I'm just going right over all that texture and pulling up some extra paint. And what that does is it just reveals all the stenciling, all the work, all the raised edges become whiter, and it really accentuates all of the work that you've done. So of course it's got to have some drips and yummy goodness too, just to kind of represent some rust or some dirt that has come down from the wall over time, all that kind of stuff. Oh, so I'm using that red, English red oxide and teal that I've mixed with some raw umber to dirty it up. And my paint, I've just dipped my brush in my water and let it drip. And so I have got some alcohol on my rag again because those top little areas were very prominent, and again I wanted them to be faded and to kind of fade into the background, into the building. So I've got a little bit of that light gray that I used initially in the beginning on my background to kind of represent, to give that doorway or entryway kind of some perspective, like it's going somewhere. to bring some light to it, to add some, to draw your eye there for the focal point. And then I'm adding just a tiny bit of light over where I know my quote is going to be. These butterflies are from the Bright Butterfly Collage Pack, and I use them as they are downloaded, and then I also reduce them in size to get the smaller butterflies. And then I also used a sheet that's free to you in the resource library. The collage pack will be on sale, and the new stencils that I used today are also going to be on sale this week, so I hope you grab them. I'm just putting everything down with my gel medium so that I can keep them nice and flat, because I've already got a lot of texture happening and I didn't want to create any more texture, which is unusual because I like all the texture. I'm going to shade around absolutely everything, all the butterflies, the arch, and this adds dimension, it adds depth, it separates everything, all the butterflies from the background. The background is wonderful, but it has a lot of interest and pattern, and the charcoal pencil is going to separate them and really make them stand out. I hope you stick around for the conversation at the end. I share about the meaning of this piece. The quote that I use is mine. It came from my journal just as I was working through my gratitude for the day and what I needed for the day. This quote came up, and it just inspired the whole piece. I knew exactly what I wanted to do and where I wanted to take it. So I hope you stick around for that conversation. So I printed out my quote onto tissue paper. I'm going to put it down with fluid, matte medium. Fluid is the key to getting very transparent, your tissue paper very transparent. And then I will continue to, once I get this down, I'll continue to shade a little bit more and do the edges, and that is it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed today's project. Stick around for the conversation. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and all those wonderful things, and hope you get some stencils. So I will see you next week. Well, hello, my loves. Happy Sunday. Look at this crunchy, yummy goodness. I just positively love it. I love how the arch turned out. It's just perfect. The bricks, the boulders and the cobblestone. Oh, I just love it. The butterflies that just kind of pop off the page. It's just so perfect. So these are the new stencils that came out on Friday, and I've done a couple of videos. If you haven't seen them all, I show you all of them, but I used the dictionary pages for the background, the arch, the large arch, and then the cobblestone. This one is going to be a favorite. The cobblestone down here is like it's dimensional, like it's made for the street view. And then this is more of a flat view, and then the boulders as well. Oh, so good. I've also got some really fun ones, Moroccan and Paris flourishes. Look at that. Just some really great ones in the shop for this new stencil release. So I'll have down below linked to the, either at the end of the video or down below, linked to the other videos that I show how I've used them. I did 2 videos of different projects and just kind of showing you the new stencils. So I hope you get your hands on them. They're so, so good. All right, so this is the Bright Butterfly Collage Pack, and that is going to be on sale for you this week. And I'm even going to put these new ones that I did today on sale. So grab them while you can. Let's see, what else? I think that was it. Just lots of fun new stencils. I'm super excited about them. Had fun designing them, and they have a lot of they're kind of far away, like Moroccan and Paris, and because I was dreaming about faraway lands during all of this as I was designing them. So anyway, all right, what else did I need to tell you? I think that's it. It was a very simple piece, and yet I just love the texture and the depth of it, and the meaning of it is just so amazing. So let's get right into the meaning. So the quote is, "There is beauty even in the most difficult journey." And that's my saying. I didn't take that from anybody, because I was searching for, I think we're all going to be creating a lot of art as we're swinging our way out of this world pandemic that we've been in, and we're all trying to process everything. And creating is the best way to do that. And I was listening to a podcast, and I don't remember, I listen to so many all the time because I'm constantly trying to feed my soul and my mind, heart with the positive things, because there's so much negative happening in the media and all that kind of stuff all the time. And it's information that we're getting, and it's important. However, sometimes when you're focused on it all the time, it just feels like everything is bad. And I have to constantly search for the good. And the thing is, the good is not talked about as much as the bad. And through all of our experiences, whether it be what we're experiencing right now, or what we've experienced in the past, or what we will experience in the future, whenever there is difficult times, however big or small it is, there's always some beauty in it. We might not be able to see it right away, but and beauty can be many different things. It can be lessons. It can be wisdom gained. It can be relationships restored. It can be you finding courage. It can be so many things. Beauty can be so many things. But in this podcast, it was talking about, I wish I could remember the podcast, but they were talking about how in the midst of adversity and really devastating things like tornadoes or hurricanes, earthquakes, natural disasters, those kinds of things, world pandemics, that kind of stuff. It's amazing to watch people come together. All the other stuff goes away. Political lines or religious views or racial issues, all those kinds of things tend to go away, and we come together to help each other because we have this commonality that we're all trying to survive. And or if we haven't survived a tornado or a natural disaster, we see the desperate need of people, and we can volunteer, or we can send money, or we can give food, or whatever it is. And that stuff is not, we don't focus on that enough. And there's always beauty in those incredibly difficult times. And then if we bring that down even into our own lives when things are difficult, and we're not talking a world pandemic or natural disaster, we're just talking everyday life where life can be hard, and just daily activities, or raising a family, or relationships, or work, or all those kinds of things can be really, really difficult. Even in those things, in comparison to what I just talked about, seem very small, and yet are very real and a big deal to our own personal world. And even in those moments, there is beauty, and we don't see it right away, and that's okay. But if we're in it long enough, or even on the other side, once we're out, we can look back and see that there is beauty in that struggle. Because in that struggle, we gain empathy, we gain wisdom, we gain all those things, and we become related. We can understand what somebody else is going through when we're in a difficult situation, and that makes us relatable. That gives us, again, empathy. And so if we can really focus on the good that's happening in our situation, whatever that is, whatever time it is, if we can focus on one thing that we can say is beautiful, whether it is a relationship is restored, or maybe a relationship, we let go of a relationship because it was bad, because it was toxic, or we got courage to take an art class and start our passion. Or maybe it was that we had the courage to walk away from a job or get a job, or whatever it might be. Maybe you got to get to know your neighbors through all of the crazy things. Who knows what it is, or where you are, or what the story is. But there is always, always beauty in those difficult times. And man, that is when I grow the most, in the difficult times. When I lean into the difficulty and am open and present, and I search for the good, I search for the beauty, and I write it. I'm telling you, I'd say it over and over. Write it down. It makes a difference. It changes our perspective. It changes our mindset physically. It changes our brain. There's scientific evidence behind that. When we search for the good and we write it down, hand to pen, on the paper, it makes a difference, and it changes us, physically changes us. All right, my loves, I hope that you are doing well, and that you are finding your way back, maybe to some normalcy. I don't know what that really is anymore, or if we will know it for any time soon, but we're doing it, and we're doing it together. And together we're finding the beauty in our unique situations. All right, my loves, head on over to the shop and check out the new stencils. I hope you get your hands on some good ones, and create and find the beauty today. And always, always know that you are loved.